What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. Horror movies are the best kind of movie because you get to see these sick ideas that somebody's been thinking about for like 6 years. Like the next time you watch a horror movie that scars you, just remember how many people worked on it for that long. It's wild. One of my favorite moments of these movies is when the monster reveals itself, or rather, its true power. Usually these scenes are pretty cool, like you have your first real look at this monster. Maybe the movie's been teasing it, and then bam, it's just like right there in your face, and it's like melting, and it's all wet, and it's awful. But you love it, that's why you go to the theaters, this is what you want to see. Here to break down 5 of our favorite horror movie monster transformation scenes, I'm Taylor McWatters. Let's dive in. Number 5, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Okay, I have to kick this list off with a horribly disgusting transformation that comes from the 1988 classic Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So we have Debbie, played by Brooke Theiss. Hope I'm saying that name right. Theiss? Maybe Theiss. Theiss. And she's working out, you know, trying to stay awake. She's trying to get shredded. Not a bad idea. So when that time comes, you can punch Freddy in the chest 56 times or something like that. I hear ya. Except this, of course, turns out to be a dream. Nice. Then things go from bad to worse. So as she's bench pressing, you know, feeling good, Freddy appears out of nowhere over top of her and starts to spot her, or rather add a bit of weight, you know, or a lot of weight rather. Her arms then both break and like the bone like rips through the skin. It's like it is so gross. Like looking back at this clip, I laughed at first because the arms look fake as hell, and it's funny. It's funny to watch old like 80s or 90s horror and it's clearly just like a fake prop, you know? It's kind of fun. It's like the whole thing about 90s movies. Like we watch it and we see these cheesy scenes, but they don't age because they're practical. So sick. Anyways, then the scene kept going and then I started to feel sick. Like she moves her arms to show the audience, I guess, how broken her arms are, and they like fold down. They're like blah. Like that's so horrible already. It looks like when Deadpool breaks both of his wrists when he's fighting Colossus. And then to make matters worse, she starts to transform into a cockroach. Yep, you heard me. Like her arms start to grow out of where her old arms used to be, like cockroach arms. It's so gross. Like I don't know who thought of this. Then she of course tries to run away because that's what every person tries and of course fails to do. Freddy manipulates her surroundings and poof, she's in a roach motel. So she falls to the ground and she struggles to get her face out of this like sticky glue that's like all over the ground. And then her face like peels off, it like falls off of her face, and then her new and improved cockroach head like pulls out of her face mask skin, and then finally Freddy finishes her off by squishing the motel with his bare hand. Dude, Robert Englund was the best. I truly miss him. I hope he comes back or something. I want more of him. And number 4, It Chapter 1. The reboot of the iconic Stephen King novel was received well by audiences. Mostly. Specifically the first part. The ending scene where all the kids are fighting Pennywise, he has this really neat trick. So in a last attempt of survival, Pennywise really goes for the Oscar and starts to change his appearance to everybody's biggest fear. And it's like rapid fire too, like bam, bam, bam. Richie starts by cracking him with a bat. Great call, Richie, not a bad idea. And then when Mike goes in for some action, Pennywise is ready. He opens his big stupid mouth and then a bunch of arms pop out and try and grab Mike. This is a callback, of course, to his fiery past. Yikes. And then Stanley gets brave and tags himself in, and then boom, that creepy painting with the flute lady appears instead of Pennywise's face. And personally, I would have tapped out by that one. That's the scariest part in that movie. Just the way the flute falls and it's like, oh God. And then he has like giant crab legs and he's like stabbing down at them. This dude really tries a little bit of everything. Even in chapter 2, he transforms into so much, like his final form being the weirdest of them all. I remember when I saw chapter 1 in theaters. The second his mouth opened up and he bit Georgie's arm off and you see like for the first time like the CGI like crazy amounts of teeth. I didn't realize he was gonna look like that and it scared the shit out of me. The whole movie scared the shit out of me. Number 3, the dog thing. Whenever a dog is used in a movie, I get way too attached way too fast. I, like you probably, am not over the whole dog scene from I Am Legend. Like I'm sure just by me saying that, you're like, why did you remind me? Choking it, it's like, stop, let it go. Just let it bite your face off. It's too cute. It's family, let it do it. Well, believe it or not, there's another dog scene that sticks with me even more than the I Am Legend one. We go back now to the 1982 John Carpenter classic, The Thing. So what is The Thing? Okay, well, its true form remains a mystery, of course. So what do we know about it? Well, for starters, it can obviously shapeshift. It can copy any organic material and take on the appearance of a close friend or even a pet. A pet! The Thing made its first appearance as a stray dog in the original version. So one day you're hanging out with your buddy and then all of a sudden his dog's face just looks over and tentacles start popping out. And your buddy's like, oh, he must be hungry, it's all good, just give him a snack. So we have the snow dogs just hanging out, being cute, and then the Thing, of course, comes along and picks one of them as its target. And the dog starts to change pretty fast. Like I said, its face opens up and it's so sad because it's a dog and it's so violent and gross and gory all at the same time, and you're just sitting there. The other dogs start freaking out, of course. They even start biting the fence, and that's what makes this part so scary. The dogs are like real dogs. Of course they're trained, but like, that's a dog biting a fence. You know what that is. That's so, ugh. The fact that the other animals reacted like that sold it even more. Usually animals can tell when the Thing is around, right? They get like a sense for them. They try and warn the others. They're dogs. They're smarter than most humans, if not all humans. But this time they're hanging out and they have no idea. And that's when the little tentacles pop out of the dog. Like, I have trypophobia. I can't watch this. McCready's looking at this thing with the same face as us, like, please tell me this is not real. For the love of God, burn it to ashes. I love dogs. Number 2, the entity it follows. What's worse than being followed by an invisible monster? I don't know. How about being followed slowly by that invisible monster? I've said this before and I will say it again. This is a creepy movie and I love the villain. I love the monster and the way it looks. Let's get into it. So this supernatural entity is the main antagonist of the 2014 film It Follows. So whoever has this curse is being, well, of course, followed by this dark evil entity that's invisible to everybody except you. Yeah, and this entity that follows you takes on the form of a human, I guess. And you can even change its weight, gender, size, and fashion sense. So if you're not feeling these jeans, maybe they're too tight, you can just change them up. Bam, no problem. I wish I could change my clothes on command. I probably would have worn a bigger shirt today. I don't know. This entity is a pretty powerful one though. I mean, super strength, unlimited stamina. It never needs to sleep, and it's like always walking towards you. That's the scariest thing. It doesn't stop following you, hence the film's title, It Follows. It walks towards you very slowly at all times, and like, after I saw this movie, I was waiting for like the bus, or I was waiting for like an Uber or something. Now when I see someone walking towards me, I can't help but think, especially if they're wearing like an all-white shirt, like that tall dude in the video. I wasn't a fan of strangers walking towards me before, and I sure as am not a fan of them now. Another thing to know about this thing is that in order to pass on the curse of the entity, you need to have sexual intercourse with someone. Yeah, you can't just send them a text and be on your day, you know? The entity will always follow the most recent victim of the curse and continue working its way backwards in consecutive order, you know what I'm saying? So only those who have had the curse can see the entity. Even if you pass it on, you can still see when it's not coming for you. And that's worse, like you just see the guy walking to like your friend's house and you're like, that's it, he's getting it, he's biting the dust. I'll come back later. So what happens once you get it? Well, what's step 1? Run. Run very far and very fast. That's what I would say. The writer of It Follows confirms that anywhere you go in the world, it can follow you. So if you're just gonna go to a cottage, maybe pop some beers, have a good time, and then never look back, you're mistaken. If you haven't seen It Follows, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not into the movie, it's still a fun time to watch and imagine how you yourself would get out of these certain scenes. I mean, that's half the fun when you see these movies. Even if they're bad horror movies, you like to put yourself in that position. Conversation starter, to say the least. I also love how this thing changes its appearance, like the second you see a tall dude walking down the hallway. And I also like how this thing looks. Like, it's not a very terrifying, gory, like melty, bloody thing. It's just like a really tall dude, and then all of a sudden he's like in the hallway. And that's when I started panicking, because like, it doesn't look scary, but it's very scary. And that's more scary. I'm gonna keep saying the word scary. And finally, number 1, Tusk. Written and directed by Silent Bob, I mean Kevin Smith, oops. Tusk tells the story of a guy named Wallace, cool name, played by Justin Long, who we remember from Dodgeball and other stuff, where he travels to Manitoba to find content for his comedy podcast. That's the plot. That's like every Canadian guy that I know. I know like 4 of those dudes that are doing that right now. In the movie, we got co-starring Haley Joel Osment and Michael Parks. Tusk brings a new fear into the game that I never knew existed, to be honest. The fear of being turned into a walrus. Okay, so one thing leads to another, and Wallace ends up in the home of Mr. Howard Howe. Wallace gets poisoned and then he wakes up in quite the scenario. See, Howard begins this master plan of turning Wallace into a walrus, both physically and like mentally. Yeah, I wasn't joking. Wallace the Walrus. Look it up. And if that wasn't weird enough, Johnny Depp makes an appearance for some reason. Like Jack Sparrow signed on to do this. Like he did like 5 Pirates movies and then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do Tusk. I think Tusk is the next thing that I have to do in my career as Johnny Depp. Sounds like a scary premise when you say it out loud, but the movie feels more like a gross comedy. It's pretty awesome. I mean, one of those Friday night movies you and your friends watch after like 5 drinks, light up a jack-o'-lantern, get spooky. I feel you. I know what you're doing. Tusk has fans divided. I mean, half the reviews give praise to Kevin Smith for the film, and they treat it like a cult classic, while the other half see this movie as a complete waste of time and just creepy. I'm like somewhere in the middle. I'm like a nice solid middle. The climax is also undeniably funny, so if you ever start the movie and you don't like it, just see it through. You might as well enjoy the stupid parts. Honestly, this movie made me laugh a lot. I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith. Like Clerks 3, sign me up. This movie couldn't come sooner. This movie is just too much for me. Justin Long's performance is haunting. Like he really goes for it. Like my sister can't even watch any more movies with Justin Long because she's mortified from watching this. What are your thoughts about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you even know it existed before you watched this? Let us know in the comments. Well, there you have it, guys. Which monster transformation did we miss? There's of course a lot to pick from, so let us know in the comments and we can toss them in for a cheeky part 2. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and you might as well turn those notifications on. That way when we do our live premieres, we could all chat about how gross Justin Long looks in the chat together. I'm Taylor McWatters. See you next time. Get the sleep dust out of my eyes. It's very warm here in the morning. I like wake up, I'm like, ah, like charges me back to life. All right, take my watch off. Everything's freezing. Air. Number 5. And then number 4. This scene is so gross. And then things go from bad to worse. Things go from I'm 91 to worse. Any Barts? Some water. Woke up like 4 minutes ago. I'm like, How? Yeah. Cool name. Wow. Cool name, Howard Howe. Wow.